Hey, it's ENDYMION, and today I want to speak on the looming culture war that is going to inevitably be coming for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. From past comments claiming that the studio is ran by Yahtzees and that the woke gaming press is refusing to cover Warhorse's epic in the past, due to political reasons, while also claiming that Warhorse's founder is a Gamergate supporter, and how this has lingered on for years now for the studio. Beyond this, Dragon Age is absolutely cooked, and developers are coping, trying to say that the game is successful when all evidence points to the contrary. Firstly, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is coming out early next year. In some great news, the game is actually getting its release date moved up a week from when it was originally intended to come out. This is awesome. And I think I can confidently say that when Kingdom Come 2 finally releases, we're going to see a mammoth of an RPG hitting the gaming populace for sure. After all, the first game was able to beat Witcher 3's highest concurrent player counts on Steam, even though journalists at the time were not happy with the game at all. This brings me to a collection of tweets from Daniel Vavra, the founder of Warhorse Studios and the director of both Kingdom Come games. I played the original back on PS4, I beat it, and I spent somewhere around 80 to 90 hours on the game myself. I found it to be brilliantly done, janky sure, but once you got a hold of what was going on, the game was incredibly fun to play. It was like playing a real-life person in medieval Bohemia, and I think that Warhorse nailed it. From what I can tell from previews like with Neon Knights coverage, Kingdom Come 2 is just the original game, but everything is now polished and smoothed out to a clean shine. Which means for me anyway that the game is a day one buy personally. Another big reason why I'm keen to play the sequel is because Vavra is vocal that he wants historical evidence to be the key to the game's success. He doesn't really want to inject identity politics into the game within a period of time that didn't have any. And I firmly believe when Kingdom Come 2 releases, you are going to see journalists complain and even dock the game points in reviews claiming that it's not diverse enough. Yet we all know, whenever these reviewers play or watch something where the population within the product is predominantly anything but white, then diversity is suddenly never a problem. They always operate like this. This brings me to this overall saga of anti-coverage from the gaming press that has been attacking Warhorse Studios and Kingdom Come for literal years now. For example, in 2018, Kotaku ran an article titled "Kingdom Come owes its popularity to realism and conservative politics." Warhorse has never been able to escape the leftist propaganda stranglehold that is on the video games industry, sadly. These people hated Kingdom Come for no other reason than because it was far too white. Here's some of what Kotaku said about Kingdom Come, and I quote, "The other side of Kingdom Come's appeal is thornier. The game is historically based, set in Bohemia, now the Western Czech Republic, during the time of the Holy Roman Empire, and the game's developers say they've even replicated topography and individual buildings from the region. However, since long before the game came out, there's been debate about exactly which elements of history the game's developers prioritized. Much of that debate concerned Warhorse's 2014 and 2015 proclamations that the game wouldn't contain people of color because, according to director Daniel Vavra, there was no black people in medieval Bohemia, period. People then pointed to historical texts and art that suggested actually there might have been Moors in the region, as they were definitely present in Europe at the time. It's hard to say definitively one way or another whether they ended up in the sorts of backwoods towns that dot Kingdom Come's setting, or if they only appeared in major city centers. In response to the ensuing controversy around representation, Vavra, a Gamergate supporter, mocked dissenters on Twitter with, among others, this image of Martin Lawrence in the movie Black Knight. Since then, a schism has formed around Kingdom Come. Some are hesitant to play the game because of the views of its most visible creator and what he seems to represent, not to mention how modern-day nationalistic biases might influence his team's choice of historical sources." End quote. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that Daniel Vavra also supports the Gamergate movement ever since its inception? And this, of course, means that he's a bad guy in the eyes of journalists all over. But Daniel is allowed to have his opinions the same way everyone else does, and him supporting Gamergate is not a negative thing, by the way. Daniel Vavra understands that the players should have a voice and a say in what they want to support, and they should be allowed to question or criticize things that they don't want in games. These journalists, of course, believe that we should all be tied up and eating slop while thanking them for letting us play games in the first place. Daniel Vavra has also been called far right-wing and a Yahtzee plenty of times too, all because he dared make a game set in medieval Europe that stars only white people. Because despite what these wokies want to believe, that is what medieval Europe was like. Daniel even had to issue a statement due to all of the slander, and this is again from Kotaku. Vavra issued a statement retroactively recontextualizing his stance on Gamergate, claiming that for him it's always been about freedom of speech and the freedom of opinion and thoughts, rather than the clear sexism, racism, and harassment that the movement peddled in from the get-go. I am not a friend of any kind of totalitarian rule and consider the accusation that I am a Yahtzee or close to any ideology that even remotely goes in that direction therefore as absurd, even personally offensive, he added. It's no surprise that Kotaku painted Daniel this way. After all, they're not the only ones who have done this. Even Vice, back in the day, declared that they would not be covering Kingdom Come Deliverance whatsoever, and they would ignore its existence despite it being a major release when it came out in 2018. This is similar to how Axios, another publication, refused to cover Hogwarts Legacy, simply because of J.K. Rowling's opinions on trans people. Kotaku and others hold similar opinions of Kingdom Come, Warhorse Studios, and its founder and creator Daniel Vavra, that being proud of being white and showcasing authentic depictions of white culture is not only problematic, but very racist too. Kotaku even says themselves, the game itself, however, is largely free of overtly racist or sexist rhetoric. What's there hasn't been enough to set off most people's alarms, even though it's very much a game about white manly men doing white manly men things. Women mostly being supportive mother-esque figures or prostitutes when they get to be characters at all. Gay villains and little details like a charisma buff called alpha male that you get for having sex with women at bathhouses. The game also frequently depicts humans, a Turkic nomadic group, as killers and savages. I enjoy how they complain that Warhorse has stuff like gay villains. Wow, imagine that. Depicting all kinds of people, regardless of sexual identity, as good or bad people. I mean, Dragon Age Veilguard could never. These days, if you have a gay or trans character in your game, they're automatically angels that have been sent from heaven to live amongst the defiled heterosexual folk. Gays and trans characters are often depicted as holier than thou, better than us in every way, and leaders who will shepherd the masses into the future like they did in Veilguard, quite literally all over the game story and quests. Having a villain be gay is good representation. No, not because all gay people are evil, but because gay people are not all saints and good people, the same way with heterosexual people as well. Anyone, regardless of their identity or skin color, can be amazingly good or horrifically bad. To depict people of any kind in one singular way is both stupid, lazy, and just needs to be called what it is, which is blatant propaganda. Warhorse having the balls to depict gay characters as more than just trophies is what we actually need more of. We need villains of all skin colors, creeds, and identities in media, but if these journalists have their way, then white people are the villains always and everyone else are heroes, and it's no wonder that the things pushing this never work and always fail. I actually want to speak a bit about the sources I talked to in my previous video about Star Wars Eclipse for a second. Those sources told me that places like Disney specifically know full well that the white customer base out there are notorious for being fiercely loyal and willing to support things that they love. They have the data, they know this very well, but they refuse to give that audience what they desire solely based on identity politics alone. The white consumer base is literally looked at as the core of the problem for places like Disney when it comes to pushing their agendas. So it's no wonder these websites for years now have been hammering it home that whenever something celebrates its roots that are in any way tied to a majority white thing, it should be lambasted and destroyed instead of respected like other cultures are. And by the way, I always roll my eyes when people say white people have no culture because it's so ridiculous. Medieval armor, the Colosseum, the modern world that encompasses all of Europe, as well as North America, is based on white culture. The way you pay for things, the law that keeps things intact are white culture, whether you want to admit it or not. If you live in the first world, you are benefiting from the resounding achievements of the very culture you're being told to hate while actively benefiting from living within it. This is not racist to say, it is simply fact, and I'm tired of people attacking or trying to pull down white people specifically all the time like this. Kingdom Come is a game that depicts this very concept. It is white people fighting white people in an era of time where white people existed. There's nothing wrong with that. And to try to strong-arm or attack the people who worked on this game for making something that harkens to their corner of the world is moronic to me. Warhorse has been dealing with this anti-white rhetoric for almost a decade now. Just look at these tweets from 2015 for God's sakes, where one user would say, Daniel Vavra blames press for publicizing his racist remarks about no medieval people of color, then not paying enough attention to his game, to which Daniel would reply, would you please explain to me what's racist about telling the truth? There were no black people in medieval Bohemia, period. He's right, by the way, yet of course historical fact and truth do not matter in the eyes of woke freaks. Hell, my video that I did on Grand Theft Auto 6 recently got attacked by people claiming that I was lying about what I was talking about. And even though I cited public sources that you can look up yourself as proof, it's never good enough for these kinds of people. The truth is nothing but a falsehood in their eyes because, like I always say, this mind virus, it rewrites these people's brains. It's like a victim of abuse. When you try to help them, they almost don't want to be helped because they have become so accustomed to the situation around them that they start denying reality out of fear. Helping these sorts of people who have been brainwashed is going to take a lot of work. I know I'm going to get attacked a lot, but it needs to be done. People must return to reality and accept the objective truth that exists around them. This false perception way of living must end. It is simply designed to keep you in mental chains that you have been conditioned to think that don't exist by the very people who mean to control you. I mean, Daniel Vavra of Warhorse dealt with many people just attacking him for wanting to make a game based on the culture of Europe. Like, look at this collection of tweets where Daniel needs to defend his right to make the games that he wants to make, especially that bottom tweet which reads, where was the idea that white people are supposed to supply culture for the whole world even born? Damn, even Daniel just asked a hard-hitting question there. What he's saying is, why has the world decided that it's up to white people to create things for other cultures exclusively? But if white individuals want to make things that celebrate where they come from, suddenly it's racist. You can see how that's really weird and stupid. It's a dumb argument coming from the other side. It's like the whole every country can be ethnically what they are, but if a country of white people exists, it's now racist. None of it makes any sense. It's simply racism against white people is what it always comes down to. Maybe some will say what I'm saying in this video is taboo, but it really isn't. Everyone should be respected regardless, yet we constantly keep seeing one group getting spit on and attacked, while being told to become compliant of others. It's messed up, dude. There's no other way of looking at it. And if I need to be the one to ask the hard questions to start a conversation, then that's what I'm going to do like I always do. As Daniel once said, so is it my duty as a white man to produce games, not about my culture, but about yours? Why don't you make them yourself? Yeah, the wokies didn't like that response, but he's right, it's not his responsibility. Of course, this sort of rhetoric once led to a very funny exchange like here, where this user tagged Warhorse Studios saying, just for your information, one of your creative directors is currently implying that people of color are incompetent. So they're trying to get Daniel Vavra fired, to which he replied, thanks for reporting me, I am actually the founder of the studio, so not sure it will help. That is so base, dude. He literally did the spin when someone asked for the manager, and went, oh, by the way, I'm the manager. You'll love to see it, but what do you expect from a guy who wears shirts saying that he's based as hell? Honestly, to me, as someone born European, surrounded by European family members, especially when I was younger, Daniel, to me, he just comes across like one of my uncles. A guy who is obsessed with history and likes to eat good food and drink with his pals. There's nothing wrong with wanting historical accuracy or respecting the history of where things come from. I mean, Daniel even decided to spit on BioWare's Dragon Age Veilguard recently, where he said, wow, 7-year-old game versus recent release, and showed how Kingdom Come Deliverance has more players on Steam right now than Veilguard, which is not even 2 months old yet as of the making of this video, while Kingdom Come, by the way, is 6 years old. I'm sure the lefties won't like that one, but too bad, and they better get used to it, because when Kingdom Come 2 arrives in February, I am fully expecting a massive launch. I'll wager that it breaks over 1 million in sales in well under 24 hours. I think people are starving for an honest-to-God great RPG game that doesn't talk down to them, or have stupid gender nonsense or forced wokeness in it. Like I've said in previous videos, after the election happened, there was a shift in the way things felt in the world. We were, obviously, teetering to the brink, and it was as if the world course-corrected itself or something in that moment. We've seen other games that champion these similar ideals like Kingdom Come as well, such as Space Marine 2, or the newly released Marvel Rivals, which broke like 400,000 plus players in under 2 hours on Steam alone, mind you. That game right now, it easily has over 1 million people playing it across everything, since that game is available on all the major platforms pretty much. Well, besides the Switch, because if the Switch had Rivals, it would probably explode, but you get the point. I think the audience out there is responding to games that are based, have actual beautiful women and strong male characters. Just look at Path of Exile 2, that game just came out as well, and it already broke 1 million in sales. Wow, who could have guessed that people just want great fun games that don't treat them like children or talk down to them? Dear developers, just start giving people what they want. We don't care about the gender stuff. Path of Exile 2, by the way, has already sold more than Veilguard has in 24 hours versus over a month and a half on storefronts. Let that sink in for you. To me, it seems like we're reverting as a society to the core tenets of what actually matters and makes factual sense. And these people like Kotaku and others, man, they hate it, dude. They just want you miserable and confused all the time, and they don't like that you instead are rejecting these things. Speaking of woke stuff, Dragon Age Veilguard's top devs refused to tell publication sales numbers recently, which is definitely the vote of confidence you need to know that this game sold well, except it didn't at all. From Fandom Pulse, Dragon Age the Veilguard's game director evades question about sales, says getting the game made was a miracle. Corinne Bush, the director of Veilguard, was asked by Eurogamer, "How has the commercial response to the game been? I've seen stories about sales and they seem mixed, inconclusive. The game seems to be doing okay, but struggling to keep pace with Inquisition before it. Has it been a success from your point of view? How do you measure that?" The director would respond, and listen to this copium. "There's 3 axes we can measure this by: what the team was able to do and put together, the pride that they can take in that, every game that is made, especially in the AAA space, where you're talking hundreds of developers' timelines, is a miracle. That they executed at quality internally, we consider that a success. We're very happy with the critical reception to the game. It's not common to have these challenging development cycles and have a team turn around and receive the critical reception that it did. In fact, in a lot of ways, that is the harder path to take, so yeah, we're quite proud of the critical reception. Unfortunately, on the sales side, that's not something we can really discuss. But of course, as we know with Inquisition, that was a long burn to get to those total sales numbers. Oh yeah, the game flopped hard, that's what that means. They actually think the game will have legs going forward and will sell more as time goes on. I mean, sure, it might sell when it's like 70 to 80% off, but at that point, each copy is being sold for the price of like a McDonald's meal. So what even is that profit going to look like, if any profit at all? I should also probably tell you some stuff I was told a while back about Dragon Age from one of my sources. But case in point, EA, they don't care about this game anymore. They've already written it off completely and moved on. They, as an EA, were hoping that Veilguard would achieve similar success to the Jedi games from Respawn. Of course, it did nowhere near that, but the big hope for EA, as I was told for Veilguard, wasn't even really its sales, cause they knew months in advance based on pre-orders that the game was a certified stinker already. But they were hoping the game would, at the very least, improve the public image of EA in the eyes of players. By the way, those Jedi games, they did just that for EA. They sold well too, yes. But the major takeaway for EA when it came to Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor was the positive press and outlook from players on EA as a company. Cause they know internally their predatory sports games are not viewed positively by the gaming community as a whole. I mean, sure, they make billions every year, which is why EA continues to do it, but they make these smaller games in comparisons, if you will, the Jedi games, Veilguard, It Takes Two, etc., because they want those games to cleanse their appearance, so to speak, if that makes any sense. Basically, to distract you from how predatory those sports games are is the point of this. But Veilguard obviously didn't do well for them at all. I mean, it got 1 nomination at the Game Awards and that's it. All that pandering just to get ignored almost completely. Damn, that must sting, but maybe you should have made a game people wanted instead. The director of Veilguard had more to say. As for what the next iteration becomes, what that looks like, what style of game that is, Well, as I said, it's a franchise of reinvention. In some ways, there are some parallels in that regard to, say, the Final Fantasy series. Of course, very different in terms of choice and consequences and so many other factors, but there are those RPG franchises that embrace that reinvention, that when a new one gets announced, it really piques your curiosity about where are we going to go. What kind of adventure is this going to be? So again, I will remain of the point of view that Dragon Age's ability to reinvent itself remains our greatest challenge and our greatest opportunity. If I was in charge of Dragon Age personally, I would revert the game back to what Origins was. And I mean turn it into more of a CRPG. Basically, if you will, turn it into how Xenoblade Chronicles kind of plays, which is more of a turn-based action hybrid style game but with more tactical combat, where you can obviously stop the game, issue commands, move people into certain positions, but things still happen in real time, just like they did in Origins. Get rid of the action combat, get rid of the simplicity, embrace the open build structure of, say, Baldur's Gate 3, get back to real companions that aren't babies that don't step on any taboo topics too, and then make the world dark and badass again. The game doesn't need to be open world-esque either. I think how the crossroads were depicted in Veilguard is how BioWare should structure their worlds. Semi-open, still small enough that it's not Skyrim or something, but big enough that you don't feel like you're just running down a hallway. Oh yeah, and fire all the writers, cause that cast of characters they had, they weren't it. I guarantee you that when Kingdom Come 2 is coming out, it is going to dwarf Dragon Age's numbers within 2 hours of release. And then we'll see all the apologists crawling out crying that people are racist for playing the white European game over the DEI slop they should be playing instead. They can paint people all they want as Gamergate supporters. All they're doing is turning those studios and their games into lightning rods that'll attract far more players in the end anyways. Maybe they should have painted BioWare as a Gamergate supporter. They would have probably at least sold more copies if they did that. And of course, as I was making this video, Kotaku decides to release another hit piece proving me right as to why these journalist types cannot be trusted. This time, however, they're complaining about Avowed in their article titled, "The campaign against Avowed reveals the bigotry that fuels the anti-woke." Here we go, here's a piece of what Kotaku said, but oh boy are the grifters on fire about Avowed. They saw the previews about how you could hit spiders with swords. And they saw the few that mentioned the pronouns. It didn't seem particularly exciting to me, so I didn't think to mention it, and that was it. They were proven right. That earlier picture failing to feature Jeff from accounting was all the evidence they'd needed. And they'd been proven correct to declare the game would cause their DEI detectors to start shrieking. In the last week, they have been sending out absolutely deranged messages about how the game is doomed because one of its art directors tweeted something about Elon Musk. Avowed is in deep trouble. They post to each other on X, their brows furrowed in concern over the severity of it all. Because yes, horrendously, the world's richest bigot has been posting about Avowed too, condemning its use of pronouns, and deliberately reinterpreting the art director's mocking sarcasm to be a statement of intent to be racist against white guys. Dear Kotaku, I hope your team has health insurance because it's clear your journalists require brain scans just to make sure they don't have brain damage. Because the takes they have over there, it suggests that they do indeed, and claiming that Avowed's art director Matt Hansen is not racist is ridiculous. The dude genuinely stated that he wants to replace his industry with black people and refuses to hire white men. That's what he said, not me or anyone else. Matt Hansen said that. Of course, had Matt Hansen said he wants to replace black people with white artists, you would all be having a temper tantrum right now calling for Hansen's head. And don't try to deny it, you know it to be true. Who wrote this article anyway? Listen, John Walker, you have the whitest man name ever to exist, by the way. So it's even more ironic you're yet another cultist who would gleefully sacrifice themselves for people who don't care about you, but you need to understand this. Your ideology is dying, you're being dumb again by your own volition, and nobody cares about Kotaku as a serious website anymore. At this point, as this video shows, I just use you guys as punching bags now because it's really all you're good for anyway. Most of your colleagues already got laid off, and then you, like them, will fade into obscurity until eventually you walk away from the industry entirely. This video will get too long if I go through this entire article criticizing it, so I'll keep it brief. Avowed is lucky that it's on Game Pass, let's just put it how it is. Matt Hansen is a raging racist woke weirdo, and everyone at Kotaku likely has brain damage from the unconscious bias courses they're forced to take to prove they're good little boys, girls, and they-themers. I have no doubt there will be conversation surrounding Avowed when it releases, although it does release close to Kingdom Come. which will be interesting to see the audiences for both these games which cater to different demographics. But arguing with the Kotaku journalist is pointless. It's kind of like punching a chicken. They are weak and pathetic. It's just kind of sad now. So everyone just take solace that this Kotaku writer likely wrote this from his bedroom that he shares with a poly couple and 2 other people who probably don't even know what genders they are, in a Seattle apartment or whichever other leftist breeding ground hotspot that exists out there, where 10 of these things are living in a 2-bedroom because they're all failed industry people. Kotaku's opinion at this point is about as valuable as a fart in the wind. Go home, Kotaku, you're drunk. Who are we kidding? Your website will be likely dead and gone in a year or less anyway, and then we'll all be celebrating and twerking on your graves when it happens anyway. But what do you think about all of this? Are you getting Kingdom Come 2? Is Warhorse's director wrong for his comments about not creating a diverse world? How about Dragon Age? Will you eventually play it, or do you just not care anymore? And do you want more games like Kingdom over Dragon Age? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for being here, subscribe, thanks to my supporters, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.